Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well today and you are ready for today's show because you may have guessed it, Ralph Bond. How'd you know? Probably because it's Friday, and hey, that's what happens every Friday. So joining us today is Ralph Bond. He is our science and tech trends correspondent, and he'll be joining us to talk all about some amazing stories. Today is going to be just a little bit different, but you're going to catch on real quick as to what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including Ralph's entire section, as well as the show notes. You can find today's show notes by the time that you hear this, and that means, yep, you guessed it, you can follow along, or you can simply watch or listen to us. We try to make sure, if you are simply listening, that you're going to get everything you can out of it, but I think the best way is to either follow along with the show notes, or, of course, watch the video, which we encourage you to do. So check us out, computeramerica.com, social media at Computer America on all of those. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just go ahead, bring Ralph on, and have fun with it. It's going to be a good Friday, and I can't think of a better way to do it. So once again, he is our science and tech trends correspondent, longtime contributor, and all-around nice guy. Ralph, welcome back onto Computer America. How have you been?
Hey, I'm doing okay. It's always a blast to be here on Friday with you to do this fun show, folks. What I want to explain to people who are maybe new to the show, welcome, first of all. What Ben and I do each Friday is highlight 4 articles that show us key trends and developments in a huge array of things: artificial intelligence, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, agricultural technology, construction technology, space research, physics, you name it. And most important of all, we're going to give you an oasis of positive news thanks to the world of science and technology. And this week's a little different. Normally, we just do the last story of the 4 we highlight being medical technology or science related. In this case, there's just so much great stuff going on. We're going to do 4 stories, all related to medical science and technology.
Absolutely. And I think, I was just browsing through it right before the show. We're going to talk about brain health, heart health, lung health, and sleep health. So, yeah, just a little teaser there. But, ladies and gentlemen, this one's going to encompass a lot. And I promise you, it's almost as if Ralph knows I skipped biology and chemistry in high school. So, out of my depth, and probably out of a lot of people's depths. But we're going to do our best to keep it simple. So,
yes.
Ralph. Yeah, let's keep it simple. Let's start with number 1, brain stuff, please.
Yeah, this is a great one from sciencealert.com. And being a member of the senior citizen community, this headline grabbed me right away. Headline: some layers of your brain actually get stronger as you age. Okay.
I had no idea.
Had to learn about this.
Because even before we, and even before we get to the article, I think the overall belief, and they kind of say it here, is that everything just kind of gets worse. You kind of peak at some age. What that age is, kind of varies. But yeah, then everything just kind of gets worse, and you just kind of become worse of a human. But no, this is actually very interesting.
It's great. So getting into the article here, it says, contrary to the common belief that aging leads to uniform brain degeneration, some layers of the brain, specifically the primary somatosensory cortex, can actually thicken with age. Wow. These layers are responsible for processing sensory information and appear to retain or even enhance functionality over time. Wow. The somatosensory cortex is composed of multiple ultra-thin layers, each with distinct architecture, and function. Now, in the show notes, what I do to augment these articles, because mainly it's me needing extra help, I go, okay, I want to know more, or I don't understand what that term means, or I've never heard that term, and so forth and so on. So in this case, in the show notes, I've inserted a side note about the somatosensory cortex. So it's a vital region of your brain. By the way, it has to do with touch, pressure, pain, temperature sensing, your sense of body position and movement. It helps you recognize texture, shapes, and even objects by touch alone. And it plays a role, in sensory memory, like remembering the feel of velvet or the sting of a burn. That's what that part of the brain's all about. So researchers from 4 institutions in Germany, and I've got a list of those institutions in the show notes, found that while the overall cerebral cortex thins, certain layers remain stable or grow thicker, likely due to continued use and stimulation. So here's the qualifier. If you want the sematoma cortex to improve, you've got to use it. That's the key here. So it's not just to sit back and drink a beer on your lazy boy and it's all going to happen. No, you've got to do something here. So the study, again, we have the institutions that were involved. And overall, this supports the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize even in older adults. Ben, I'm encouraged.
Yeah, and honestly, when you first said parts of the brain thicken, I'm like, okay, that's how it happens. You know, you just grow older and you get thicker brained, and that's, you know, and then your wife tells you, hey, you got a thick brain, and you're like, yeah, I know, wife, thank you. But no, it turns out that's actually a good thing, and the thinning and less thickening is, turning to jelly. I guess is the bad part. So no, this is very encouraging and seems to reiterate the point of like, you lose it if you don't use it or lose it. There we go. Use it or lose it. Essentially, keep learning, keep active, and hey, your brain will be better off for it. And this really, drives that point home.
It does. And one of the neuroscientists involved with this said that this discovery challenges previous assumptions and highlights the brain's resilience and adaptability. And the findings suggest that mental engagement and sensory stimulation may help preserve or even strengthen brain function with age. There's the qualifier. You can't just lay around on the couch and have this happen. You have to have mental engagement and sensory stimulation to cause this part of the brain to thicken and actually improve with age. And overall, it opens new avenues for understanding aging and cognitive health, potentially influencing therapies and lifestyle recommendations. So pretty great stuff. Check it out. You can get a link to the full article in the show notes.
Absolutely. And yeah, it just, I'm very curious what possible lifestyle changes that could come from this. Ralph, it may just be that, hey, as you start to feel yourself slowing down, maybe it's time to make, a pretty big change, either new hobby, new task, new language, new something. Just new seems to be what human brains crave. So yeah, as fun as sitting on the porch having a beer is, may not help you thicken that thin brain of yours up. So there you go. Story number 1. Story number 2, from brain health to heart health. And this is something interesting. I don't know how many of you, really open up your rib cage and let your heart get some light in there. Probably not many of us, but it may be the key to therapy. So let's find out more.
Yeah. And this story is in the world of organoids. And we've talked about organoids a lot. And this has to do with heart-related organoids in lab settings and so forth. But let's get into this. This comes from knowridge.com. It's news out of the University of California, Irvine. Headline, engineers harness light to help heart cells beat stronger and healthier. And again, we're talking about organoids in a lab. So a little setup here to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about. So here we go. Traditionally, scientists have relied on synthetic materials to grow heart tissue in the lab. While these materials can provide structural support, they typically act only as a passive scaffold, offering no active stimulation to the cells that are being grown in the lab. Now, engineers at the University of California, Irvine have developed a breakthrough technology that uses light to stimulate heart cells in the lab. And we're going to learn more about what this stimulation does and what it means. This approach could pave the way for new therapies to improve heart function without relying on genetic modification or invasive medical procedures. Wait a minute, without relying on genetic modification or invasive medical procedures. Pretty interesting stuff here, Ben.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to, really strengthen the heart without, like you said, invasive. Really, to me, the genetic modification, I'm sure that means gene therapy at some level or something like that. But the invasive medical procedure, I can't imagine a more invasive one than heart surgery. So anything that reduces the need for that is, perfect.
Yeah, no kidding. And what we're going to get into now is very geeky medical stuff, medical science stuff that I don't pretend to understand. But here's the deal. The research team created new biomolecules that allow heart muscle cells to respond to light. This means that light can be used as a trigger to send signals to the heart cells, helping them beat more rhythmically and develop features closer to those of mature human heart tissue. Remember, we're talking about lab-grown heart organoids. And again, they figured out a way to use light to trigger and send signals to these heart cells, helping them beat more rhythmically and develop features closer to those of mature human heart tissue. This means that organoid can be more faithful or authentic in terms of really mimicking or paralleling a human heart for experimentation, testing, and so forth, right? I mean, it's just remarkable. Mm-hmm. And going on here, it says, here's the key capability the new system developed by the UC Irvine team delivers. When exposed to certain wavelengths, when exposed to certain wavelengths of light, it generates tiny electrical signals that interact with the cells. And these signals prompt the cells to contract in a coordinated way and encourage stem cell-derived heart cells to take on characteristics of adult cardiac cells. Okay.
It's always one of the hardest things, because we've been covering this field for a while and creating organs outside the body. Turns out that, the body does stuff that science is still trying to wrap their head around, because it's one thing, Ralph, to pull out a heart and say, this is a heart. But it's another thing to say, this is how a heart is made, and we're still finding all these little things. And I know that one of them is when you create an organ, you have to create the blood supply system, the veins and whatnot that go into it. I mean, Ralph, it's very complicated to, it's not that complicated to look at and go, I can make a mechanical version of this and do something different. To create the exact thing, that's something that really shows that the human organs, human brain, just humans are so much more, I would say, advanced than technology is currently. And they're working on it.
Oh, yeah. It's very good point you make there. And the research team leader explained that this is the first demonstration of light being directly converted into signals that heart cells can use. And the implications of this technology are wide-ranging. For one, it could help researchers build better lab-grown models of the human heart, aka organoids, which are crucial for studying heart diseases and testing new drugs. And the research is still in the early stages, which is often the case with the stories we do on the show. The UC Irvine team is now working to better understand how heart cells respond to the engineered biomolecules and light-triggered signals. They also plan to develop three-dimensional heart tissues that can respond to light in a similar way. And to wrap it up, if successful, this could represent a major step toward combining bioengineering, materials science, and medicine to create innovative solutions for heart health. Wow.
Yeah. Even just being able to create a facsimile for a heart so that you don't have to wait for someone to unfortunately pass, or someone who's not needing their heart, whoever that may be. Just being able to create these in the lab and test drugs, give them heart disease, give the rats a break and create something a bit more accurate to humans. That's going to advance a lot, even if it doesn't mean, hey, we grew a heart, we're going to put this in you now. No, just advancing medicine is important on its own. So there you go, Ralph. Amazing story. Amazing they're able to do this. Good job, UC Irvine. So, story number 2. Story number 3. And I don't know too much about intubation, but I've seen it on like Scrubs and stuff. I'm familiar with it. Let's talk about a robot that can, hopefully help with this and make this a better process altogether. So, Ralph, story number 3.
Yeah, and story number 3 comes from another University of California source, in this case, the University of California in Santa Barbara. And it's from their news outlet called The Current. And the headline here is UCSB, again, University of California, Santa Barbara, designed soft robot intubation device could save lives. Subhead: the innovative tool designed specifically for non-expert users improves airway access and raises survival odds in critical medical emergencies. And intubation, folks, if you're trying to visualize this, think about maybe the TV shows you've seen, or God forbid you've maybe had to witness this in person or had it done to you. It's where they try to get a tube into your airway so that you can breathe if you're having some kind of medical emergency or problem. So that's what we're talking about. So let's get into this. Maintaining an open airway is a critical priority in emergency medicine. Without the flow of oxygen, obviously, other emergency interventions can become ineffective at saving a patient's life. However, creating this airway through endotracheal intubation is a difficult task for highly trained individuals and under the best of circumstances. That's the reality that these scientists and developers said, can we come up with something that is simpler, perhaps even something non-experts could use? So in the field and in the ER, where seconds matter, emergency medical personnel face many unknown and wildly changing conditions which lower their chances of success. So even in the best of situations, this is a challenge. But here's the key that the researchers said: but what if successful endotracheal intubation could be less reliant on ideal conditions and years of specialized training? So,
I mean, it would allow someone like me to do it, because I sure as heck I'm not going to get years of specialized training and accuracy. I'm not going to get those things.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, this is just amazing to me. So in a paper published in the journal Science Translational Medicine, UC Santa Barbara researchers and collaborators demonstrate a non-electronic, soft robotic device that quickly and autonomously guides a soft tube into the trachea. Initial device testing with highly trained users yielded 100% success rate and a 96% overall success rate with pre-hospital medical providers like EMTs and paramedics. So these are obviously very trained people, and the results were fantastic. Current technology.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested about the non-electronic, because we have the picture here that kind of shows the diagram of how this is supposed to work.
Right.
But I'm guessing it's like all pneumatic. It's all plastic and bendable and soft plastic to not hurt your throat as much as possible. And then I guess it's kind of just pneumatic tubes and tube within tube. Seems very cool though.
Yeah, and it's simple. And again, it's a good example of the kind of broad umbrella that the definition of robotics covers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because we usually think of robotics like, I don't know, a Boston Dynamics dog running around or something. No, robotics is all kinds of things. So current technology calls for the rescue person to first visualize the tracheal opening, then manually direct a tube through the serpentine anatomy of the airway into the trachea. That's the trick. That's the part that requires years of training and expertise. Now, to simplify this process, the researcher's device uses a soft, inflatable tube that everts, E-V-E-R-T-S, everts from its tip. We'll explain that in a second here. Called the soft robotic intubation system, it consists of a curved introducer that slides into place at the back of the throat and stops at the esophagus. Now, the term evert, E-V-E-R-T, the verb means to turn outward or inside out. This will make sense in a second. And so the opposite of invert. But
I got to say, Ralph, I'm already kind of iffy on if this is going to make it out there because you and I both know through so many of these stories, if it doesn't have a catchy acronym, I don't know of the success overall. Like that's why NASA puts everything into an acronym.
Yes.
The SRIS system needs to be renamed a little bit, but other than that, they are doing good work.
Yes, it's funny. That's true. So with this device in place, a soft pre-inflated tube is threaded through the introducer, emerging near its tip at the opening of the trachea. As the user advances the tube, it everts from the tip, carrying inside it a soft breathing tube as it enters the trachea. And one of the team members noted, quote, "So instead of trying to push this tube and bend it to get it into this complex configuration, we can just mechanically create the complex configuration as we go." And once the endotracheal tube is at its destination, the user can inflate a cuff at its distal end to seal the opening and begin ventilation. The introducer can be removed, leaving the breathing tube in place. And side note, the distal end refers to the part of the structure that is farthest from its point of origin or attachment, especially in anatomy or engineering context. Do I fully understand all this? No. But I think the potential to create a way to do intubation with people who are not super skilled and super highly trained is very promising. So it's an early research, but I think it's a pretty cool advancement.
It seems like really what they've been able to do here is, there's and everyone's a little bit different, but there's a general kind of curvature to the esophagus, and then there's like a little thing that's up there. It seems like they've engineered the perfect way to kind of fit what is most normal, and then, just kind of, through tube within tube within tube, just make it kind of fit within the neck. And that's something that, Ralph, like, this is another thing about our stories, is that sometimes the best breakthroughs are not, cutting edge angstrom level technology and hardware. Sometimes it's just clever engineering done in a different way.
Yes.
And it leads to great innovation. So very cool. And hey, 100% success rate among professionals is still pretty good. And hey, we can see in the future, maybe, Ralph, something like this just being in every like first aid kit, just like you have, defibrillator or something like that, something that can improve outcomes for people who need this. So very, very cool. Story number, so story number 3, very amazing. Story number 4. And we're going to, talk a bit about this. And, I think before I talk too much out of something I don't know, I think this is going to talk about sleep apnea, right?
Yes, it could be applied to that. Yes, absolutely.
I had to take my wife to get a sleep apnea test. Ralph, it was not, don't tell her I said this, it was not dissimilar to taking my dog to the vet and dropping them off for the night for a medical procedure. I just had to drop my wife off and be like, hope the doctors are nice to you. And then I kind of drove off, and, she had to spend the night in a room full of doctors and, saying, try to sleep as best you can in this completely foreign, awful exam room surrounded by strangers and beeping medical devices. But that's the way things are, even like up until like a year ago. So let's see if we can improve that a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. It's a great setup. And I've personally been through that myself as well, having been diagnosed with severe sleep apnea, where I was not breathing for multiple minutes at a time. Anyway, this is a great story. This story, by the way, to set the stage in terms of trends, Ben, you and I are seeing more and more. I think even last week we had a story about using Wi-Fi beyond its original intent, finding clever ways to use this other than, accessing the internet and doing your email and whatever the case may be, right? So this story comes from medicalexpress.com. The headline, Wi-Fi sleep monitoring method offers a non-intrusive, accurate alternative to more cumbersome techniques such as your sleep lab where you go and spend the night, right? I've got a bunch of links in here for you. Here we go. Researchers at the School of Electronic Information and Engineering at Liaoning Technical University in China. I hope I'm saying that right. It's Liaoning Technical University in China, have developed a technique using Wi-Fi signals to monitor sleep behavior without wearable devices or clinical setups, such as the spend the night in the lab deal.
By the way, just real quick, let me jump in here and just say that, don't say this often. If you haven't watched the video portion of Computer America, that's okay. We understand. But we added captions not too long ago. And Ralph, you kind of spelt out, I can scroll up here. You spelt out because obviously pronouncing a foreign name, doesn't always work out too well. Yes. But you spelt it out and actually spelt out the letters individually as you were saying them. And I got to say, this is a service by Google, and I am very impressed all the time at the capability of the closed captioning that that we're just kind of hijacking. So just wanted to aside that.
Yeah, in real time. Very, very impressive. So let's talk about the technology used. And again, this is geeky. I don't profess to fully understand it, but real quick here, the key technology involved is something called channel state information from Wi-Fi signals. Now, a side note, in the show notes, I've got a whole bunch of information about this. You can check it out. But basically, channel state information refers to the detailed knowledge of how a wireless signal travels from a transmitter to a receiver. It's a cornerstone concept in wireless communications, especially in systems like Wi-Fi, 5G, et cetera, et cetera. So you can check this out in the show notes if you want to get more into that. Now, the technology the China team created, well, it detects changes in signal amplitude caused by body movements and posture shifts during sleep. These are the tells, the signs that apnea is doing something to you. Then uses statistical modeling, probability density functions to interpret these variations. This is very geeky stuff.
Well, and I was just thinking about this, like everything that you're describing is like technology that was, and as I said at the beginning, using Wi-Fi for purposes that it wasn't intentionally or, previously intended to use. But this is all super important for Wi-Fi strength when it comes to, concrete walls, wood walls, people, just getting the best signal strength that you can throughout an environment. And Ralph, I think a byproduct of, hey, people want better connection to watch their TikToks or whatever they may be doing. A side effect is, hey, you get almost like medical grade detection of these things.
Yeah. So again, if you can use Wi-Fi, as these developers have proposed, to determine or detect body movements and body activity and so forth without having to put someone on a mask and all kinds of crazy stuff, is really profound. So to kind of amplify that, the advantages of using Wi-Fi signals to monitor sleep behavior over traditional methods, well, non-intrusive, no need for smartwatches, sensors, or sleep labs. There you go. Accurate. This technology, they claim, achieves over 95% recognition of sleep positions and movements. Wow. Comfortable, allows subjects to sleep in their own beds without disruption. This is something that can be deployed in your home, which is a huge thing, because when you go to the sleep lab, I've done it, your wife's done it, it's a very not natural situation at all, right? And so the results might be skewed by that. And the broader applications of this, going beyond sleep testing for maybe apnea diagnosis and so forth. Oh, what else can you do with this? Well, the team is saying elderly and mobility impaired monitoring can detect irregular movements, falls, or sleep disturbances in real time. And then, of course, sleep research offers a scalable, cost-effective data collection for long-term studies. So fascinating stuff coming out of China.
It reminds me a lot of what Apple just announced at their latest, big keynote. And they're saying that, with their Apple Watch, just by looking at like the veins and, using some kind of like light sensor to take pictures of your vein continuously, Ralph, they're claiming that you can just wear an Apple Watch for 30 days and it will monitor your vein health, how it kind of moves with your heartbeat, and it can detect hypertension in people who wear the Apple Watch for 30 days. which at that point you would then go to the doctor, get tested, and so just say, hey, my Apple Watch says I have high blood pressure. So, do I have high blood pressure? I think there might be something like that in the future because like you said, no special sensors, no wearables, no nothing. I mean, maybe mix this with a fitness watch, mix this with, I think we've heard of other technology, Ralph, that says put your smartphone on your bed with this app on it and it can detect it as well. Or even I think we did one where you strap it to your chest. It was like a harness and you put your smartphone on your chest and then you just sleep like normal in your own bed and then your smartphone would detect. So yeah. I think multiple points of data mixing with this, and hey, Ralph, what before would have been thousands and thousands of dollars for a sleep test for this or for that, you can just detect it at home and get people the treatment that they need before they even realize that they need it. So some very good stuff.
Again, to recap your point, I love the fact that this Wi-Fi sleep monitoring technology could be home deployable. This is the thing that's just a big wow.
Yeah, living up to your title, that is a trend I think we're seeing more of, is how can we use this this continuous data stream that Wi-Fi kind of gives us to help individuals and help people and detect humans. So there you go. Amazing stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, there's always more in the show notes than even what we cover. Ralph does an amazing job of distilling it down, but hey, distillation means you kind of lose something a little bit in the source article. So links in the show notes if you want to go check that out, and go check it out. We encourage you. So if you have been following along, you may notice there's more, and these are the honorable mentions. As I always say, if you're a researcher, you're listening to this and you say, darn, only honorable mentions, I'll have to spend the next 8 years working to get in the top 4. No, honorable mentions are just as good, just as great. It's just, we try to keep the show a little shorter for your sake. So if you want to find out more, go to Computer America. At the bottom, you can find the show notes. You can read these articles, and Ralph is going to at least give you the headlines to let you know what it is that you could be reading. So Ralph, let's do the headlines.
You got it. So we've got 4 honorable mentions. And to set up the first one real quick, last week we talked about South Koreans who have developed a plasma torch that can process mixed plastics and create 2 building block ingredients for making new plastics. That was a big breakthrough. Interestingly enough, out of phys.org, that's phys.org, which is short for physics.org. Headline, new catalyst could make mixed plastic recycling a reality. So here's another example of research work to solve the problem of getting away from having to sort plastics to recycle them, right? Great story. Please check that out. Well worth your read, and it's a great follow-on to last week's plasma torch story that we talked about. The next one comes from ZMEScience.com. Headline, a new solar panel shield made from onion peels outlasted industry plastics in tests. Well, how could I resist onion peels, right?
I mean, I got plenty of those and I just throw them away. That's crazy.
There you go. I love it. I love stories where plants or animal material and so forth is repurposed into something you would think would only have to be done with synthetics. Well, here you go. Onion peels. Great story. And the next one is from the Iowa State University. Headline, bio oil made with corn stalks, wood debris, could plug orphaned fossil fuel wells. This is a very specific thing, but again, I love taking materials from nature, waste material, corn stalks. Once you harvest the corn, what do you do with these corn stalks? Well, here's a use for them. And wood debris, combining the two, could create this bio oil they could use to plug defunct fossil fuel oil wells. That's pretty cool.
At its core, it's like shove garbage into hole. But at its science core, there's a lot more going on here. So, yeah.
Yes. And our last story, another little reference, a show earlier in this past several weeks, we talked about biochar, which is where you take an organic material, and in the case of the story we did, it had to do with human excrement, and you roast it, you heat it up so hot that it turns into this kind of like ash-like material. And then what do you do with this material? Well, here's another example of biochar. This comes from Anthropocene magazine. This is our last honorable mention headline. Biochar yields triple win for cotton. This is agricultural tech. Subhead: healthier soil, less water, and 87% less nitrogen runoff. So this is in the world of agricultural technology, really cool stuff. And another example of a trend, more and more interest in biochar. So check that one out.
There you go. It's Ralph. I know that we did that just a couple of weeks ago, but the way that you said essentially roasted, it made me think like fair trade, locally sourced, roasted biochar, which is interesting. Okay, so yeah, but no, as always, agriculture is just one of many, many, many fields to benefit from better technology, science, and understanding. So, as always, Ralph, amazing stories. I'm glad that we got to cover all this medical news. And hey, the honorable mentions, ladies and gentlemen, computeramerica.com if you want to see these and more. So, Ralph, until next time, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Ralph joins us every Friday to talk about all these amazing stories. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. Do something fun. We'll catch you here next time. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.